underground, 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 underground,
Greetings, surface dwellers. My name is Michael, and these are my chthonic musings. Topic of today's video is mounts and wagons, and their use in your tabletop role-playing games. Enjoy! Mounts, particularly horses, are an important part of our history and of many of our stories. I think it worthwhile to take a bit of time to examine if we might benefit from including them a little more in our tabletop role-playing games. Mounts and mount-powered vehicles, such as wagons, carriages, sleds, chariots, and others that I'll simply categorize as wagons, can be a rich part of the environments that our players will be inhabiting and exploring. Not only medieval or medieval-esque environments, fantastic or historical, or American Western, weird or historical, but other genres as well, from post-apocalyptic settings like Thundar the Barbarian or Planet of the Apes, to science fiction or science fantasy settings like Firefly or Star Wars. I've been mulling over this topic for a while, and it recently came top of mind from two things. One is my prior video for encumbrance in the Dragonbane game, and specifically about being reminded about the fact that animals, riding animals and other animals and vehicles such as wagons can be an excellent way to carry stuff and take care of the load that otherwise the player characters would have to bear personally, or get other hirelings to do it for them, or leave behind, because they couldn't carry the load. And the second thing is prep work that I've been doing for an upcoming game of Dragonbane that I'll be running for my son and his wife's sister. That game, I've decided it's going to be run in a forest and an elven kingdom, and it's kind of got a sylvan flavor to it. So the players will all be some variation. They could be human or dwarves, but I'm also including fauns or satyrs and fairies and elves, which are the predominant residents of this forest. All of the sylvan folk, and it got me thinking about, since travel is going to be a little bit of a part of this campaign, and I got some kind of evocative artwork where the pathways through here are going to be less roads and more like trails through the forest. And I thought, I'd really like to include what would be like mounts, but tailor them towards the fantastic nature of this, and the sylvan nature of this. I don't want to call it a campaign because it's just going to start as like a mini arc, maybe a couple of sessions. But so that got me down the road of looking into what I had as far as something that would evoke that feeling through the mounts. All right, so zooming out a little bit, let me talk about the types of things in our games that will either focus on mounts or enhance the the presence of mounts and wagons in our games, or work as a barrier to that. All right, so first to begin with, I'll talk a little bit about what do mounts do in our role-playing games, mounts and wagons, and how do they interact with the player characters. And first of all, I'll talk about something we've already discussed, and that is just the setting, the vibe. There are certain settings where mounts and wagons will be, by default, part of that setting. They have to be for it to be that type of a setting. This will include, anything with knights, within the setting, or American, Western frontier kind of setting. So the setting and setting that vibe, or that immersion into that setting, will be part of what mounts and wagons will do. But also on a more functional basis, they are good for carrying loads. So I already talked about that a little bit. They also are, at least within a certain distance or duration, much faster than most humanoids on two-legged humanoids on foot. So anything that has to do with closing distances quickly, or escaping from slower creatures, mounts can take an important part in that. Or just the maneuverability and tactically being able to deliver a threat or assets from one location to another very quickly. And that ties into a second topic, and that is just combat in general, and the use of mounts. Their maneuverability and their ability to carry a load means that they can carry, armored knights from one part of the battlefield to another. The charge, you can use weapons such as a lance from horseback that would be unwieldy otherwise. And you can deliver it with tremendous power that is, represented by that mount. And then again, that ability to carry, increased loads, and over a longer distance, kind of facilitates the use of mounts and wagons in travel. Any campaign where travel is a significant part. Either it's, really focused on travel, or maybe the game is about that, or it just, it is a significant part of that game. And on the screen here, you can see a sampling of the types of games I'm talking about. Pendragon by Chaosium Inc. You're a knight in King Arthur's court, and the question isn't, do you have a horse? Because of course you do. The question is, how many horses do you have, and of what types? We also have here the Deadlands setting, using Savage Worlds as the game engine, from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. And I'll have to admit, my comfort zone is really like fantasy role-playing games, but a number of these Western settings, particularly the Weird West settings, like the Deadlands, where you can be a hex slinger with the Viking runes carved into your six-gun, or the game that was recently kickstarted, Tales from Elsewhere Clockworld, from Tales from Elsewhere Games. Seemed pretty intriguing, and I wouldn't mind, particularly if one came up and one of the conventions that I was going to, one of the RPG cons. I would probably like to get in on one of those games. They seem pretty sweet. And staying on topic, from a game that I do have, Index Card RPG has a number of different, they call worlds, different settings within it. And one of them is Ghost Mountain, which in its typical Fast and Furious, get to the point kind of, and get to the action vibe, has under supplies, has a rule for hoof it. On foot, cover 10 miles per day. With wagon, cart, horses, cover 20. And I don't know about you, but if I'm playing in a world that is caught between earth, heaven, and hell, where the dead aren't dead, and the folk are beginning to change, and every night the devil threatens to burn it down. If somebody asked me if I'd like to cover twice as much ground every day during travel and get to my destination in half the time, my answer's probably going to be yes. Now, continuing along, Forbidden Lands by Free League. I'm showing here the cover for a supplement to it, The Bitter Reach. But Forbidden Lands is all about travel, all about discovery, the hex crawl, if you will. And similarly, the last setting, Ultraviolet Grasslands and the Black City, by Wizard Thief Fighter Studios and Exalted Funeral Press, is also focused on travel. In fact, when it calls itself a role-playing adventure setting inspired by psychedelic heavy metal, the Dying Earth genre, and Oregon Trail games. So needless to say, it's also quite weird and fun to take a look at and either run straight or to borrow ideas from, which I do with a lot of my purchases, or for that very purpose, to take and to salvage and borrow from. Now let's address some of the barriers to the player characters using mounts in your game. The first being that mounts and wagons are large, and if the player characters spend a good amount of their time traveling through, caves, dungeons, and buildings that are mostly inaccessible to their mounts, they have a logistics problem of figuring out what to do with their mounts and wagons during that time. This is not necessarily an insurmountable problem, because you can have, situations where the player characters, travel from town and set up a campsite, let's say, nearby the dungeon that they're going to be exploring. And we'll probably have, a set of hirelings that are to remain at the campsite and care for the mounts and such, and maintain the campsite, waiting for the parties to return from the dungeon. In addition, games where the player characters have access to magic, it may be the case that they have spells at their disposal that create temporary mounts for themselves or their allies. These can be, quasi-real, illusory mounts, or mounts summoned from, another dimension or plane of existence. There are also potentially magic items, such as figurines of wondrous power. I'm trying to remember. There's the Goat of Traveling, and the Ebon Fly, and the Obsidian Steed, if you're willing to risk it, and other such devices that may be. But there's a trade-off here. You're kind of venturing into a different vibe, which could be okay. It could be what you're going for, but you're leaning a little bit more into that magical essence of your mounts, and getting a little bit away from the natural existence of the mounts within the world that you're existing in. And I remember kind of noting it as through different editions of Dungeons and Dragons, as the paladin went from having a real physical companion, even though a special companion with higher levels of intelligence than standard animals, but still a real physical warhorse. Into, I think more current versions have them as like celestial or other kinds of creatures that you can kind of park away back in their pocket dimension, or back into what other plane of existence they came from while you're tooling around in the dungeon, and then summon them back when it's more convenient for you. Although I can't totally dismiss the magic and magic items, because when I was a kid, Luno the White Stallion was one of my favorite cartoons, and I did like it. What was it? A winged horse of marble white, take me on a magic flight. Another impediment to your player characters using mounts and wagons is the fact that they can be quite costly in obtaining and maintaining. So it may be the case that early on in the game, even characters that are designed to be mounted and have that as a very prominent feature in their character, will start out without mounts and wagons, and will try to build up the capacity, improve their financial standing, if you will, in order to be able to purchase such mounts and equipment. For example, the cataphract in Hyperborea has many features built into the class, such as horsemanship, mounted charge, and weapon mastery, specifically with a lance. But recognizing that a first level character is not going to be able to afford a horse and equipment, they've kind of built in that there's the cataphract has a second weapon mastery as well. Also, if you choose the starting pack for gear, rather than generating how much starting money you have and purchasing item by item, there's a note here under a cataphract starting pack that since a newly created cataphract cannot afford a horse, it is unlikely that one would be carrying around a lance, regardless of weapon mastery. So this, acknowledges the fact that you're not going to be starting out with a horse, and you're going to be building up to that. Similarly, the Cavalier in D&D's 5th edition 2014 version is a subclass of fighter. So you've got which occurs, the subclasses occur at 3rd level. So you've got 2 levels to get your stuff together and be able to afford your mount and your lance. The Hussar from the RPG Sentai and Sensibility doesn't have this problem to deal with, being well entrenched in proper society. Being a game that's essentially a mashup of Power Rangers and Jane Austen novels, when the time comes to battle evil on a larger scale and call your Machina, which may have itself the form of an equine form, or not, but you'll have people to attend to the matters of your mount. All right, so let's talk briefly about a number of role-playing game supplements that relate to mounts and wagons. These are drawn from a number of different gaming systems, but they all touch on our topic. The first two were published for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, the first of which being In the Saddle, Mounts in All Their Glory, which is 101 pages of content published by Dark Quest Games. And the second one is called Noble Steeds, the D20 Guide to Horses and Mounts, which has 64 pages of content, originally published by Avalanche Press Limited and recently reissued by Tabletop Adventures Limited. Both of these products are quite remarkable and go into quite a bit of depth about primarily horses, but also other mounts. The second product, Noble Steeds, is more grounded in a realistic fashion, by which I mean these are both for fantasy games, but about our real world history of horses and myths surrounding them, and then with a chapter called Beasts of Burden about elephants and camels and charioteering, and also Steeds of Legend, being real world legends. So about Pegasus and griffins and a legendary murder horse, which I believe has the name Akushka or Akuski. I'm not really sure. There may be variations of it, but very interesting story about the water horses that drown people or eat them or both. So interesting stuff. Both supplements have a few very interesting magical items that are related to riding and horses and other mounts. The first product, the In the Saddle, has a bit more about more fantastic alternative types of mounts. There's a whole bestiary in there, and also various classes and magic besides the magic items, spells and such. And both of them, even if you're not playing 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, if you happen to come across them, they're certainly worth a look. Next up, we have issue number 1 of Arcadia, a digital zine from MCDM. And this is for the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, the 2014. Or I should really say what I'm spotlighting here is one article from this zine. And the article is called Jumping on Mounted Combat by Willie Abeel. This article had some expanded rules for mounted combat and creature training, and as well as some unusual mounts such as a basilisk and a giant toad. And it finished up with a short, not an adventure, but an encounter called Rally at Rashkar, which was interesting, but a little bit Weird West-ish for my fantasy tastes. And although the idea of the rally, the capture the flag, so sports and contests, with our mounts, and I know you're probably thinking jousts, and we'll get to that in a bit, but it's something to keep in consideration. Mounts as for parades or entertainment or sports and things of that nature. And I do want to at some point put some nasty little creatures on top of mounted on top of basilisks. I think that would be pretty entertaining. Another mount-related product, supplement for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, is called The Tiny Tome of Cool Mounts. It's by somebody that goes by a name that I don't know how to pronounce. It's Xacur. Zachar, or I'll call them Cur, just because it sounds good. This product is touted as a small number of fantastic creatures to ride and become their best friends. And that small number is 8. There are 8 potential mounts in this product. And it also contains some advanced rules for riding for 5th edition, including like trying to gauge how difficult it is to ride this particular mount, in comparison to, let's say, like a horse. And also some attempts to do some scaling so that, I think there's like 2 different methods, by either spending experience points that you would normally just use to level up, but actually diverting them into another area where you can work specifically on your riding ability. Was one way, or they had an alternative method where it was just based on your level. But trying to scale the mounts so that they are still kind of comparable, even though when you go up in higher levels, which is another kind of drawback when you have mounts in a game where the power of the PCs changes dramatically from the beginning of the game until later stages of the game. And so, you could be hit by an area of effect, damage dealing spell or hazard or something like that could easily wipe out all your mounts if you have 20 times the number of hit points that you had when you began. Your player characters I'm talking about. But anyhow, these mounts are quite interesting. Some of them are interesting takes on kind of standard ideas for mounts. A celestial dire wolf, a giant eagle, a griffin. There's a type of griffin in here, and I think I might use the leaf glow wolf sample in here for the Daggerheart game. Maybe not at the beginning, and maybe it's just something that some NPCs have or something like that. But I like the picture of glowing glyphs, on this wolf creature. There's also a gargantuan undead spider that looks pretty intimidating, and I think I might use that, and create the stat blocks for whatever game I'm using, but I might use that as an adversary, because I think that would be quite interesting to have like a howdah with some necromancers up top of this thing, and present the challenge of like if you're trying to get into melee with these necromancers, how do you get up there? So anyhow, that's just a thought, but there's this product as well. And moving along, we come to a product that I've talked about in the past in prior videos, and that is the Warhorse zine, the first zine from the Erudite DM. Here we have 48 pages of content designed for the Shadow Dark RPG. Here we get broad coverage not only of warhorses, but it's focused on warhorses, but about other horses as well, and horse types, their qualities, buying a horse, training, riding, naming your horse. There's also coverage of a topic I hadn't seen before, and that is horse gods. 3 different horse deities. for the different alignments seen in Shadow Dark. So a lawful, a chaotic, and a neutral horse god. There's a section on magic, both spells and magic items, and a Shadow Dark class, the Knight Lancer class. And in addition, a page on jousting rules. There's sections on travel and wagons, various NPCs related to horses, such as farriers, cartwrights, even horse thieves. And then to wrap everything up, an adventure called Horse Lord of Tanishore. Several parts of the content are displayed as random tables, facilitating inspiration and use by game masters. One such table is the What's in the Saddlebags table, where finding a hungry lost horse or mule wandering alone, untended, you investigate the saddlebags. And of course the game master can, add variations if they wish. Perhaps the rider is not entirely missing but unconscious or dead, but still, on the mount, or their body is nearby. But good stuff, and definitely should be checked out. Our next highlighted supplement is also designed for the Shadow Dark RPG. It is called Shadows of Empire by Fenris77. It doesn't have the focus on mounts that the Warhorse scene did. It's mostly a supplement about bringing a Warhammer RPG type flavor to your Shadow Dark campaign. But there are a few things that I wanted to highlight within it. The first being that it also has some classes, player character classes, that can be brought into your game. One is a Lancer class, so another knight kind of class for your player character. And the other one is a merchant class, which has most of the things that you would expect a merchant class to have, to assist in buying, selling, appraising, and profiting. But one of the features that I wanted to highlight is that you have advantage on checks driving carts and wagons. And the main reason I wanted to include this product is for one random table that I think is fantastic, and I just wanted to bring it up. And it is called Caravans. So it is a D12 table about various different types of caravans that your player characters might encounter as along the way. And I just wanted to highlight some of the entries on this fantastic table. One of them being brightly painted tinker wagons, sundries for sale. All right, so maybe the next random encounter that your players have, going through a forested, a road or trail through a forest is not another band of orcs or hobgoblins to fight, but a little shopping interlude. Another entry on the table is a mob of chanting flagellants surround a portable shrine to Saint Gertrude. A cleric shouts wild sermons. And I think this is just such an evocative way to bring, a piece of your world, and put it on display and travel around with it. And your players can just encounter this strange faction of people, and depending on whether they choose to engage or not, things can go in a number of very interesting places. A similar entry on the table with a slightly different tone, the Knights of the Golden Sun in a double file, taking the body of their fallen preceptor to be buried. Again, this could be an excellent way of just briefly expounding on some lore. Who is this fallen knight? And also, depending on how important status or social standing is in your game, it can be brought into light here. And, with what solemnity and reverence do your players address this event, and do they step aside and make room and bow their heads, or they just go along their way and be slightly annoyed that their path is temporarily barred from them. And again, excellent opportunity for role play. And not all social encounters have to be in the King's Court or at the Masquerade or what have you. Our next featured highlighted product is Mad Scribe Magazine number 12, which at the time of this recording this video is the current issue. And specifically, I want to talk about an adventure that's included in the magazine called The Blue Lady by Travis Fauber. The description tells us that The Blue Lady is a versatile adventure for any fantasy campaign, compatible with the Dragon Slayer RPG and any old-school systems. It's suitable for characters of any level and can be adjusted accordingly. And I'm not going to go over the adventure itself really, or give any kind of spoilers. What I really wanted to highlight in here is that it uses Travis's Full Metal Tilt jousting rules. They called here the basic rules. So there's 3 full pages of these basic rules over jousting, and the jousting itself is a prominent part of this adventure. It's like the main set piece of the adventure. And it's quite interesting because there's a number of different tactics, I'll say, or different decisions that you make during the joust, of like specifically where you're going to aim on your opponent's shield, and if so, specifically where on the shield are you going to aim your lance, or are you going to go for the helm? So it's quite involved. And even so, there's a more expanded, the full version, which is being kickstarted now, and for that product, for Travis Fauber's Full Metal Tilt, the full set of rules. In addition, I think there are a couple of other adventures that are part of that Kickstarter as well. And so I don't have too much more to say than that but check out the Kickstarter if that's something that intrigues you, or take a look at the latest Mad Scribe magazine. And I will say, part of the rules are like, if you're aiming for the helm and you're successful, you may take off your opponent's crest that's atop their helm. And they only have one crest. And you may have heard the term crestfallen, which I always think of like somebody that's like sad and a little mopey. But these particular, in this game, they get pissed off. They don't get mopey if you take off somebody's crest. But that's like, it could be a good thing, because you don't want to joust mad. It's not a good strategy. And for our final highlighted supplement, we have the Wagon Builder's Codex by Eric Allen. And this is for the Dragonbane RPG. And this supplement is about creating your own custom carriages. And these could be of various sizes, from basically from dog sleds to massive battle wagons. There's some rules about the steeds that will be providing the motive power for your carriage. And again, steeds goes down from like a group of dogs, up to oxen and such. There are rules included about the how many steeds are needed for each size transport, and Also, what happens if you should lose a steed and go beyond its optimum number, and at what point, what are the effects of that, and at what point is your wagon not going anywhere. There's also some rules for fodder for feeding your steeds, and as well as a little bit about ramming and damaging and repairing wagons. And then the rest of the supplement is there's a wide number of options, which really is what makes this a very interesting product. In some ways, it's a little bit like there was something in third edition Dungeons and Dragons about creating strongholds called the Stronghold Builders Compendium. No. Stronghold Builder's Guide, I think it was. But it had a whole bunch of things that you could put in, types of rooms and types of magic defenses, and it was an interesting product. And I was reminded of that when I see this, of the various types of wagons that you can build, and making prison transports, or military grade wagons, down to like entertainment. And actually, at the end, there's a bunch of samples using the different modules that are explained here and put into examples. And some of them are like the battle wagon, or the snow chaser is like a dog sled. But it also includes built in like a tent, and such, so that it's built in for creating a shelter on your trip, as well as another sample for the Palace of Merriment. So you can kind of imagine these like traveling circus kind of events that you can bring, either encounter on the road, or they come to and from various towns and villages. So an interesting thing that you can bring to add flavor to your campaigns, to the various games. And even though this is for Dragonbane, these ideas are evocative enough that you can, with a little bit of work, transfer them to other games. I also want to quickly go through a few creatures in games outside of the third-party supplements, but these are from the game publishers themselves, that are a bit unusual, or let's call it what it is. They're flat out weird as hell. The first up is the Thew Wagon from Hyperborea. Thew wagons are 8 to 12 foot cubes of dense corrugated muscle that weigh as much as 4,000 pounds. Small of brain and sluggish of temperament, these swamp-dwelling behemoths bristle with barbed quills of up to 12-inch length. They ambulate by rotating their underbelly muscles. In the bogs of Hyperborea, enterprising people have tamed Thew wagons to serve as transports. And I won't go through the whole process, but they do remove the quills. And it says here, once properly tamed, the Thew wagon is fitted with a harness system, which secures a carriage house atop its back. So that's an interesting encounter. Whether it's a Thew wagon in its native form, or one that's been converted into a weird-ass transport. Also from Hyperborea, we have the woolly mammoth, which, comparatively speaking, is not nearly as weird, but it's not something that you see every day in our fantasy role-playing games. And it says here, if raised from a calf, a mammoth can be used as a beast of burden. In Hyperborea, mammoths pull great wagons with wheels 8 feet high. They also can be used in war, driven by trained riders to trample enemy troops. And lastly, I wanted to mention something from Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. from the Arms and Equipment Guide. There was a device called an amulet of ooze riding, which allowed the wearers with enough training to be able to, you guessed it, ride gelatinous cubes. And it says here, gelatinous cubes are not mounts for the faint of heart or for those in a particular hurry. Bizarre cavalry in Underdark wars, gelatinous cubes are used to herd opposing troops and chew through defensive lines, or to protect valuable spellcasters after their magic is spent. Cube riders require special gear just to survive the ride. The quote-unquote saddle for a cube is a special magic item, an amulet of ooze riding. The amulet activates a force sphere whenever the wearer comes in contact with an ooze. Then, with some effort, the rider nudges the sphere to the center of the cube and rides safely inside. And it says later on, although cubes are non-intelligent and therefore untrainable, they can be directed. Quote-unquote, steering a gelatinous cube is an odd art. Taking advantage of the cube's impaired senses, a rider creates vibrations within its mass by banging on the force sphere. With practice, specific vibrations can fool the cube into sensing external movement. Thus, the cube continually chases phantom food in the direction the rider indicates. And finally, let's wrap up with a few adversaries that your players may encounter that can either be used by themselves, but also it could be used as mounts for other adversaries. We have the previously mentioned basilisk, atop which we could put any number of small creatures, be they goblins or imps or what have you. The warg is a classic creature, and the goblin, as a warg rider, is a classic. But again, you could put any number of smallish creatures, smallish humanoids atop it. And then from Brancalonia, we have an interesting hybrid, the basilisk. This overgrown six-legged dog is a monster of abnormal extravaganzian nature. Whoever comes into contact with its nauseating breath and drool turns into stone, after which the basilisk consumes its victim, munching it carefully while it begins to change back to flesh. And below these creatures, we have renditions from Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Hyperborea and Shadowdark of the dreaded Nightmare, which could be a steed for hags, night hags, and others, or they're pretty nasty by themselves as well. And just as a note, putting your adversaries on mounts, even if it's like simple bandits, bandits that can just run into your PC's camp, grab some stuff, and book out of there. If your player characters don't have their own mounts to quickly get on and pursue, they're out of luck. And it's always been my experience that players losing their stuff carries a disproportionate impact on them. They'll sooner lose a limb than be parted from some of their stuff, even mundane stuff. It's I don't know. There must be some sort of a psychological explanation for this behavior, but in my opinion, in my experience, it's very observable. And so, my friends, until I resurface, may your successes be many and your failures be memorable.